إلى أرواح موتى الحاضرين وموتى المؤمنين، من مات على الإيمان، من مات على ولاية أمير المؤمنين، إلى أرواح مراجعنا العظام، لا سيما السيد الإمام روح الله الموسوي الخميني رضوان الله تعالى عليه، إلى أرواح شهدائنا شهداء الإسلام، شهداء الدفاع المقدس، شهداء على طريق القدس، لا سيما سيدي شهداء هذه الأمة، رحم الله من قرأ السورة المباركة الفاتحة مسبوقة بالصلاة على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين، حبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا وشفيع ذنوبنا، سيدنا ومولانا أبا القاسم محمد عليه وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين، لا سيما بقية الله في الأراضين. روحي وأرواح العالمين على تراب مقدمه الفدا، واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين منذ آدم إلى قيام يوم الدين. قال تعالى في محكم التنزيل بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم: أم حسبتم أن تتركوا ولما يعلم الله الذين جاهدوا منكم ولم يتخذوا من دون الله ولا رسوله ولا المؤمنين وليجا والله خبير بما تعملون. Allah Azza wa Jal says in Surah At-Tawbah, Ayah 16, what do you think that you will be left alone while Allah has not yet known those of you who have struggled hard and have not taken anyone as an adherent besides Allah and His Apostle and the believers, and Allah is aware of what you do. Sadaqallahu al-Aliyyul Azim. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Several times in the Holy Quran, Allah Azza wa Jal gives the believers this guarantee, telling them that do not think that it is sufficient that you testify to the oneness of Allah Azza wa Jal and to the prophethood of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alih, and that this will be sufficient for you to be saved on the day of resurrection, or sufficient for you to be granted victory in this dunya. Several times Allah Azza wa Jal introduces this sunnah that the believers must be tested. They must be tested, and they must be ciphered, and they must be sifted, and they must be filtered. And He gives reasonings as to why. Reasonings not for Him, Jalla Jalalu. He doesn't need the reasonings. But reasonings so you and I can understand the logic behind these tests, or the wisdom behind these tests. You see, Allah Azza wa Jal is not concerned with having a great bulk of people just simply believing in His oneness, Jalla Jalal. Allah Azza wa Jal is not in need of people's belief. He is not in need of people to recognize His Lordship. It's not a necessity of His. He has no needs, He has no necessities. Rather, it is us who are in need of believing in Allah Azza wa Jal. However, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to emphasize to His creation that merely believing does me no good and does you no good. Specifically, does you no good. That the reason or that the wisdom behind this belief must manifest in your actions, it must manifest in your society, and this belief must reform and govern the world that you live in. So He says, I will continuously test the believers. Before I grant them this grand victory, I will test them. I will test them until there is left amongst them the best of the best. And it is the best of the best that I will grant victory to. It is the best of the best that I will grant victory to in the dunya and the akhirah. So now when we come to apply these verses onto our current situation, where we as mu'mineen live in this era of ghaiba, al-ghaibat al-kubra, and we are in search of the grand victory, which is the emergence or the revolution of Sahib al-Asr wal-Zaman, Ajjalallahu ta'ala farajahu al-Sharif, and the establishment of his government. This is the grand victory. There's no victory greater than this. Establishing the government of Imam al-Zaman, living to be at the service of your Imam, struggling besides your Imam, serving with your Imam, fighting with your Imam, dying with your Imam. There's no greater victory than this. Allah Azza wa Jal, after introducing to us this sunnah and saying you will be tested, we are left with characteristics of the individuals who will be assisting Imam al-Zaman, and these are the ones who will be left after the ciphering and the filtration. The Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam give us particular characteristics of what the Ansar of Imam al-Mahdi look like. And it is essential that you and I read these characteristics and read them with a practical philosophy, meaning I read these characteristics and I don't sit there and wait for such and such people to appear. Rather, I read the characteristics of the Ansar and then I struggle. As Allah Azza wa Jal mentions in the verse, I perform jihad within myself. I struggle for the sake of Allah in order for me to become this person that the Imam is talking about, to become this person that the Imam needs. This isn't a prophecy per se. This isn't just something the Imam says to us and says, now wait for these people to emerge. No, the Imam wants you to become these people. And the characteristics are many, inshallah. We'll go through a few, inshallah, with your permission, and a salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The first one we've discussed over the last few nights in a narration by Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam when describing Ansar al-Mahdi. He says, لا يبالون في الله لومة لائم. They do not fear for the sake of Allah anyone. If there is truth, they speak it. If there is a hukum of Allah Azza wa Jal, they announce this hukum. If there is an oppressed person that needs us to stand up for him, they stand up. They do not fear the transgressors, they do not fear the oppressed, they do not fear tyrants, they do not fear evil, they do not even know fear for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal. This is the first one, and we've spoken enough about this. The second one, عن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. طوبى لمن أدرك قائم أهل بيتي عجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف وهو مقتد به قبل قيامه يتولى وليه ويتبرأ من عدوه. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, this is a very interesting one. He says, glad tidings to the one who reaches the Qa'im. Glad tidings to the one who reaches him. Glad tidings to the one more than that, who held on to his leadership, meaning the leadership of Imam al-Mahdi, before the advent of Imam al-Mahdi. Yani he considered Imam al-Mahdi his leader, and he followed the commands of the Imam before the advent of the Imam. How? Rasulullah says. He told you how. He says, يَتَوَلَّى وَلِيَّهُ وَيَتَبَرَّأْ مِنْ عَدُوِّهِ. That he befriends the friends of the Imam before his advent, and he is an enemy to the enemies of the Imam before his advent. You see, this issue of tawalli and tabarri, brothers and sisters, is central to our religion. A few nights ago, I mentioned the equation or the formula of Tawheed, right? The formula of Tawheed, Allah Azza wa Jal, we need this formula to enter into Islam. We need this formula of La ilaha illallah to enter into the scope of Islam. Allah Azza wa Jal begins the formula with al-bara'a. He begins it with disassociation. He begins the entry into his religion, the entry into his mercy, the entry into faith with disassociation. You must disassociate from everything other than Allah Azza wa Jal. La ilaha and then illallah. This bara'ah, which we, the Shia, are accused of being fanatics in regards to. Because there are some in the Muslim world that expect from us to take a neutral stance regarding everyone and everything that existed at the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You can't do bara'ah. Sahabati kan nujum. My companions are like the stars. Love all of the companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Don't enter into any historical discussion. Don't look into the characteristics of any of these companions. Khalas, hundreds, tens of thousands of companions. Love them all. Love them all. Thinking that our problem is simply with these companions. Not understanding that this is something which is embedded in the very essence of our tawheed. In the very essence of your tawheed, the very foundations of your religion, in order for you to accept the lordship of Allah Azza wa Jal, then you must disassociate from everyone other than Allah Azza wa Jal. Therefore, in order for you to be accepting the nubuwwah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, you must disassociate from every other false prophet than Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. And in order for you to be a muwali, in order for you to be a Shia, in order for you to be an adherent and a follower of Al-Muhammad, then you must, it is essential for you to disassociate yourself from everyone else. To love Al-Muhammad means to disassociate first and foremost from the enemies of Al-Muhammad. To love Al-Muhammad means you must take a stance against the enemies of Al-Muhammad. What is the point? Usually we're asked, what is the point? Ma khalas, Yazid la'natullahi alayhi died 1200 years ago. Do I need to take a stance against Yazid? Muawiyah la'natullahi alayhi 1200 years ago died. Do I need to take, or 1400 years ago died? Do I need to take a stance against Muawiyah? Do I need to take a stance against Fulan and Fulan and Fulana? Is this essential? Is it important in my religion? Does Allah Azza wa Jal give it any weighing? Will He ask me about this on the Day of Judgment? These are fair questions. The answer is yes. The evidence is in the Quran. Allah Azza wa Jal in the Holy Quran, we hear several times He has told us stories of prophets before us and nations before us. Correct? What does Allah Azza wa Jal want from telling us these stories? When Allah Azza wa Jal tells me the story of Ibrahim and Namrud, when Allah Azza wa Jal tells me the story of Musa and Pharaoh, when Allah Azza wa Jal tells me the story of Dawood and of Talut and Jalut, what does Allah Azza wa Jal want from this? Is He telling me stories like the Jews and the Christians assume He does in the Old Testament? If this was the case, Allah Azza wa Jal would have given them in chronological order and given us a bit more detail. When Allah Azza wa Jal gives us these stories in the Quran, they are huda, they are guidance. As Allah Azza wa Jal states that this book is a book of guidance. It is huda. It is a book of guidance. It is a book of hidayah. So therefore, every letter, every stroke of the pen in this book is hidayah, is a form of guidance. So when Allah Azza wa Jal tells me the story of Musa and Pharaoh, there is guidance in this story of Musa and Pharaoh. Allah Azza wa Jal is guiding me to His awliya and guiding me away from His a'da. He's showing me who the friends of Allah Azza wa Jal are and how they behaved and what befell them, and who the enemies of Allah Azza wa Jal are and how they behaved and what befell them. And it is incumbent upon me to take a stance. Allah Azza wa Jal wants me to take a stance. Am I with Musa or am I with Fir'aun? Am I with Ibrahim or am I with Namrud? Am I with Al-Hussein alayhi salam or am I with Yazid? Allah Ta'ala wants a stance from me. Allah Ta'ala wants to see where my heart stands. Your heart is the compass here. Your heart can tell you if you are with Imam al-Zaman before his advent, or if you are with the enemies of Imam al-Zaman. Your heart can tell you from now. Your heart knows from now. Your heart knows when you read these verses in the Quran where you stand. It is for this reason Sayyid al-Imam al-Khumaini radwanullahi ta'ala alayhi, if we can have a salawat for his soul, please. When he speaks about tashayyu' on the Day of Judgment regarding hisab, he says that some of these mustad'afin from the Amma, from our Sunni brothers and sisters, some of them, had they been present on the day of Saffin, had they been present, and the angels asked them, who would you fight with? Whose army would you have joined? Would you have joined the army of Ali alayhi salam or the army of Muawiyah? You'll be surprised that the overwhelming majority of them would join the army of Ali alayhi salam. The majority. Forget about your Hiran Nasibi, yeah? Your Salafis and Surah Salafis. Forget about this. I'm talking about your genuine, regular, everyday Sunni Muslim that doesn't know any better. Give him the choice. Do you stand with Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam or with Muawiyah? La'natullahi alayhi. Stand with Ali alayhi salam. Because Ali alayhi salam is as clear as the stars. Ali alayhi salam cannot even be compared to Muawiyah. This is why they had to spend tens of millions of dollars this year to make a series just to glamorize and clean the image of Muawiyah ibn Hind. And they haven't. All they did was create more of a stir for people to actually go out there and study who this Muawiyah was. There is no one that can read up on the history of Muawiyah and love this man. No one. Unless he is sick in the heart. Unless he is really an enemy of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Unless hidden in the pits of his heart there is hatred for Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. You can't love this man. You can't love this man. So Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam says that this wala and this bara'a is essential in your lifetime. Before the advent of Al-Qa'im, I must befriend the friends of Imam Al-Mahdi. I must know who his friends are, and I must know who his enemies are. Al-Sayyid al-Shaheed, Al-Sayyid Abbas al-Musawi, Ridwanullahi ta'ala alayh. He has a very famous saying. He says, the one that does not fight the Zionist regime now before the advent of Al-Qa'im will not fight the enemies of Al-Qa'im during his advent. It's not that khalas, he doesn't fight the enemies of Allah and then when Hujjatullah comes all of a sudden he becomes brave. It doesn't work like this. He says the one who doesn't fight the Zionist regime now cannot, it is impossible for him to fight the enemies of Imam al-Zaman. Why? Because this is an enemy of Imam al-Zaman. You think the Imam just comes and he wipes on your head and all of a sudden you become brave? All of a sudden you become a mujahid? This isn't the case. The Imam alayhi salam wants those who have already trained their hearts, trained their limbs, trained their souls in rejecting and fighting his enemies, rejecting and fighting tyranny and terrorism and occupation and fascism and colonization before his advent, then the Imam comes and he says, these are the soldiers I want. They've been tested already. They've been tested already. And the ones who are friends of his friends. Meaning very blatantly, and we're not going to hide and dance around this anymore. Very blatantly. Meaning in today's world, the ones who are the friends of Imam al-Zaman today. They are the ones who are genuinely preparing and striving for establishing his government on this earth. They are the ones who are standing in the face of tyranny and terrorism and colonization today. They are the ones who are upholding the honor and the dignity of this ummah. Billah alaykum, I ask you a question. What honor and dignity does Islam have today? Were it not for the existence of the Islamic Republic and those who follow the Islamic Republic? Genuinely reflect in your heart and tell me, Karamat al-Islam, Izzat al-Islam, where is it? Who protects the honor and dignity of Islam and the Muslims today? Everywhere in the world today, Muslims are downtrodden. Everywhere in the world today, Muslims are oppressed and killed and slaughtered. Even in these lands, you are downtrodden. Even in these lands, we cannot have the same rights as the enemy does in expressing our truth. We don't have this right. In standing up with the oppressed, we don't have this right. You get blacklisted, your name ends up at airports. You get audited, people come remove things from you. When I talk about the izz of Islam, when I talk about the honor and the dignity and the might of Islam, where is it represented today other than this Islamic revolution? Search in the last 50 years. Who has come to the defense of the honor of the Muslims? Palestine is a given. Lebanon is a given. Bosnia, Yemen, Iraq, Afghanistan, Bahrain, Kashmir. Who are the only ones giving their youth and the blood of their youth and the blood of their ulama and the blood of their leadership? And funding and supporting and arming and training and financing and educating and propping up and establishing the Muslims around the world. It is no coincidence that the enemy today has employed all of his tactics, all of his resources, all of his media in tarnishing the image of this Islamic Republic amongst Muslims and specifically amongst Shia. Inshallah, we'll end with this because it's a very annoying topic. Sallu ala Muhammad wa alim. I always get asked, and subhanAllah, earlier tonight I was asked, about why is it that there is a group of Shia, a very small group, alhamdulillah, them and their mu'ammameen are anti-Islamic revolution. And sorry, sometimes people ask me, do you get paid by the Islamic Republic to say this stuff? No, wallahi, I haven't received 1 cent in my life from any Iranian, the Republic or the Republic, yeah? But things are clear. Am I fanatical about the Islamic Revolution? Yes, I'm fanatical about the Islamic Revolution. In fact, I'm very fanatical about the Islamic Revolution and the Republic and the Supreme Leader, Sayyid al-Imam al-Wali, Ali al-Khamenei, hafidhahullah. Very. Why? Because just as I said right now, today, in the world today, and for the last 40 years, our honor and dignity has been preserved only by this Republic and only by this leader. Allah Azza wa Jal has used them as the tools to preserve our honor. Who cared what the Shia thought before the establishment of this revolution? Who cared what we did? Who recognized us? More than that, we even gave dignity to non-Shias. We gave dignity to Sunnis today. The concept of ummah, the ummah, we'll speak about it in the next few nights, this concept has been lost. Which ummah? Now we're heading towards Yawm al-Quds, inshallah. What sort of an ummah leaves 1.5 million Muslims, their Sunni brothers and sisters, leaves them for almost 2 years now to be slaughtered and massacred and maimed and burnt alive? Men, women, children, babies torn to bits. Just today, over 70 martyrs, just today. Just before I walked into this Husseini. And this ummah of 2 billion just watches. Just watches. They do nothing. Absolutely nothing. But yet the Islamic Republic and the soldiers of the Islamic Republic, with their blood, we gave our best. The best of our leaderships we gave. The best of our youth we gave. The best of our blood we gave. Why? For any political gain? No. Because we want to embody what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to us in this narration. We must be friends of the friends of Imam al-Zaman and enemies of the enemies of Imam al-Zaman. Meaning when I see oppression, irrespective of what his denomination is, he is a Muslim, I come to his aid. People are not understanding. You know, if the Shia today, I say this and I end inshallah. If the Shia today, the Islamic Republic today, the Islamic resistance today, our Marja'iyah in Iraq today, came and said, you know what? We don't care about Palestine. We're not going to fund Palestine anymore. We're not going to speak about Gaza anymore. We simply don't care. We're going to normalize ties with the Zionist entity. Do you know what would happen to them? Who knows what would happen? The bounties of the heavens and the earth would rain upon them. Gold would flow from beneath their feet. Gold. The United States and the United Kingdom and the Saudis and the Emiratis, they would throw money at us. We would become the world's most loved people. And we would live happily and comfortably in our own lands. In our own lands. لكن هيهات. I cannot claim to be the son of Karbala and the son of Ashura and remain silent in the face of these atrocities. And remain silent in the face of the mere existence of such an entity. This is embedded in my religion, embedded in my creed. As a Shi'i, this is how I'm made. And then there is a group of the Shia who come and they want to question this. That we should be doing nothing anyway. We should just be sitting back and waiting for the coming of the Imam. The Imam will come, and when he comes, he will solve all our problems. And we'll speak about them in the coming nights, inshallah. But for tonight, I think for time's sake, it's enough, inshallah. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم واهلك عدوهم. اللهم إنا نرغب إليك في دولة كريمة تعز بها الإسلام وأهله وتذل بها النفاق وأهله وتجعلنا فيها من الدعاة إلى طاعتك والقادة إلى سبيلك وترزقنا بها كرامة الدنيا والآخرة بمحمد وعترته الطاهرة صلواتك عليه وعليهم أجمعين.